everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining. We are about to start, but before, we would like to cover a few housekeeping items. We will be running a live Q&A at the end of the presentation, so if you have any questions during the webinar, you can click on the Q&A panel at the right bottom or enable this feature on the three-dot icon on the slide area and submit your question. We will try to answer these during the webinar, but if a fuller answer is needed or we run out of time, this will be answered via email. We do capture all questions and we do like questions. And I failed also in the beginning to name this webinar, so I would love to do so. You are joining the innovation talk using EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert to enhance industry operations. I would now like to turn this over to our first presenter, which will be Lou Arone. And thank you, Lou. I will pass it to you and you may begin.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheena. Let me go ahead and get the ball here. Share my screen. So thanks everyone for joining our next version of the Modicon user group. Today we're going to talk about EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert. It's one of our, I bill it as a Lite SCADA package, but it has a tremendous amount of capabilities. Also, before we get started, I just want to apologize. It looks like some people or a good handful of customers out there had some problems not getting the link. I've been answering some emails and we'll continue to do that and sending people the link. We check on almost every one of these. This is not new for us, and almost all of them, about 90% of them, have to do with the email filters that our customers have on their side. It's something that we have to address. It's the way we're sending it out somehow, but I apologize about that, and we'll see if we can correct that in the future. Today, joined with me, we have Tom Droll and Thomas Ryder. I got the two Toms. They are experts around EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert. I also have Matthew Crummell. He's our local SAE. He also is an expert at Machine SCADA Expert. Tom Ryder will be presenting today, and the other Tom and Matthew will be manning the Q&A to answer any questions that you may have. My name's Lou Arone. I lead our SAE team, which is our systems architect experts, our app engineers that are experts at our products across the U.S. And if you always have any questions, please let us know. Staying true to our Modicon user group, for those who have received a mug in the past, we have certain topics that we want to stay true to on this group. It's around PLCs, SCADA, networking, smart factory, cybersecurity, and data analytics. If you joined us for our last meeting last month, actually, it was around cybersecurity. And feel free to go to my LinkedIn site where I post the video to that. But we also have a box folder. I will put that in the chat later on so you can save it. It has all of our videos. It'll have our recording for today after we're done with it. And then it'll also has all our previous recordings so you can save that link. Today, we're talking about SCADA and HMI, specifically EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert. But it can be confusing at Schneider Electric because we have a lot of SCADA systems. Everything from a Viva system platform to SciTech, which is now called Plant SCADA, GeoSCADA Expert, Power SCADA Expert, Oasis. What we're talking about today, Machine SCADA Expert, Aviva Edge, InTouch, ProFace Blue Studio, Open Studio. It can get very confusing for a customer. And so today we're going to focus on, like we said, EMSE, formerly known as Indasoft Web Studio. And many, for a decade, 2 decades, very popular software that was out there. If you want to know how we got here, Indasoft was purchased by Aviva. Schneider Electric owns a good portion of Aviva, and so we sell it under a couple of different brands. It's also known, so this product is also known as Aviva Edge, also known as ProFace Blue Open Studio. It's also private labeled out there from a number of different companies, and mainly because it's a very easy, very powerful software. And so today, it's our goal to be able to show you the software, a little bit around the software, and what its capabilities are. A little bit different than some of our previous webinars that we had. We're not going to show you how to draw circles and objects that are up on the screen. I think most people who deal with SCADA know that. We're kind of going to give an overview, a kind of a drive-by, and then we'll go into a little deeper topics, and then we'll have like an open discussion around some of the questions that you may put. Does it have this? How can you do this? That sort of thing. And so let's go ahead and get started. So here we are. Where does it fit? Just before we get started, right? Where does it fit, right? It's the perfect light SCADA. You would need something more than an HMI, a standalone HMI, but maybe you don't need the entire, enterprise type, Aviva system platform. It's fully capable, right? So we can do, we can connect to ERP systems, MES systems. We can do OEE, and-on templates are included, and we'll show you some of that, dashboard, line management type systems. We have mobile access. We can do in tablets. You can be on your smartphone, and you can get data anywhere. We including industrial graphics, which gives us a common platform that is not only in this SCADA system, but if you're aware of the Aviva system platform, it's also inside there. So now you can create screens that are portable. If you're also familiar with our next generation automation platform, which is EcoStruxure Automation Expert, EAE for example, which does your control and your HMI all in one, almost like a DCS type system. Industrial graphics will be in there. That's on the roadmap to be put in there. So again, one software, one graphical package that reaches across all of our software lines, which is, again, pretty powerful. And then we're going to show you a little bit of situational awareness graphics that are in here, connectivity to our historian, and then insight. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball to Thomas.
All right. Hi, everybody. Trust you can see me and hear me for now. So so to introduce myself again, my name's Tom Reiter. I've been with Schneider for 10 plus years now, going on 11 years. I was originally hired as a application engineer in the Proface organization, and then the Proface organization was folded into the OEM SAE team on the Schneider side, and I worked for many years as an OEM SAE, specialized in HMI and SCADA. And then recently, last summer, I changed roles, and I now work for the HMI line of business. The global line of business has a global PAE supporting North and South America. So I'm going to stop my video now so you know it's a real person, not a robot here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, where I'm going to start today is I'm going to start, and Lou, just let me know everything's coming through now. Should be, hopefully. Trusting you can see my screen. So the first place that I've gone here today is I wanted to speak to basically the way that the licensing is structured for Machine SCADA Expert and the way that we're doing it at Schneider. So some of you may be aware of, like Lou had mentioned, about the Indusoft brand and the Aviva brand. So basically those are similar products, but depending on which brand label you speak to, there are different ways of licensing. So understand within Schneider, there are separate build time and runtime licenses. So basically what you can see here is, for the build time licenses, you have everything from, from 500 tags, 1500 tags, 4,000, 32,000, up through 64,000. So the build time license allows you to program that tag count corresponding to whatever runtime count you have. Okay, so if we look at the runtime licenses, you could see the runtime licenses are comparable. Okay. One of the things that you will see in the runtime licenses is, notice that there are different licenses for the runtime. So for example, for the 4,000 tag runtime, you see we have a license, and then we also have, for the 4,000 tag, we also have what's called a third-party license. So the license that's does not have the third-party tag in it. This is the license that gets bundled with the Schneider Electric P6 Harmony IPCs. So you could see there's a fairly significant cost savings to bundle the license with the P6. And what you can see is if you launch the product selector for the P6, you'll notice down at the bottom, what you can do is you can actually add the license to the bundled part number, and then essentially what you get is you get your license as part of the package when you get the PC delivered. So that's part of the concept, is that the packages have, the runtime packages have a different price level depending on whether you use them on a Schneider PC or a non-Schneider PC. The other thing to point out is there are some accessories, and basically the accessories are, there's a couple of different accessories. What there is there's a thin client license. So understand that when you use Machine SCADA Expert, the runtime system can act as a server client to thin clients, allowing you to, use different browsers, etc., to access and operate the screens that are served up by the runtime in a thin client. So basically with the runtime, you get one thin client license, which means you can have one client connected at a time. Okay? If you want to have concurrent connections, meaning more than one at a time, then you purchase additional thin client licenses. So for example, if you needed 5 people to connect concurrently at the same time, then you would need an additional 4 thin client licenses. And you'll also notice, just to touch on this a little bit now, there is a different thin client for the now, there's a no IoT box that is a scaled down version of the full-blown Windows system. Okay. The other accessory that I will point out in here is the Import Wizards license. And within this Import Wizard, you get Import Wizards like to import Rockwell and Cutler Hammer HMI projects and convert them to Machine SCADA Expert. The other license to point out is the version up licenses. So these are allowing you, so let's say if you purchased initially, you purchased a 4,000 tag license or for a 1,500 tag license, and let's say you now want to move up to a 4,000 tag, this is the license that you purchased to upgrade your license count. And do note, if you want to make multiple skips, so say if you want to go from 1,500 to all the way to 64,000, note that you have to buy all the upgrades in between to get up to this 64,000 tag version license. Okay. Just to touch on the business about the thin client, one thing that this is a fairly new offering. This is the first piece of hardware released. So currently Machine SCADA Expert until the last version that we released, it was only a Windows runtime system. Currently in the latest release, we have released this piece of hardware, which is, this is what we're calling an IoT box. And you can see this is a node, it's a non-display unit. So only for visualizations, you only have thin clients. And this is our first run at a IoT type box. Okay, so just to make you aware of that does exist. The other thing that I wanted to point out kind of before I got into this software is on Schneider Electric Exchange, there is some interesting, what can I say, items available for Machine SCADA Expert that you can download for free. So if you'll notice, if I type in Machine SCADA Expert, then in I'll get this link, and as long as everything's going to work. Okay. And you could see here, this is a little bit more information. There's some, you could see there's some different verbiage as far as, what the benefits of the software are, et cetera. The thing that I wanted to point out here was under the related products, there's a couple of things that are kind of interesting. One of them is you can download these. There's a graphic icons piece, which looks like this. And essentially, what it looks like is what you get is you basically get a library of all these different icons that could be freely used. And then of course you can edit these freely and use them freely. Okay. The other thing is there's these HMI screen templates for Machine SCADA Expert, and these are also quite nice. Let me just kind of show you what you get in here, and what you'll see is when you download this is you'll notice you have a whole, so there's about, oh, I don't know, 50 or 60 projects in here that are pre-built, that have pre-built functionality that you can use, and then you can see how different things were actually done in the software. So you can see everything from alarm control to recipes with databases, redundancy, schedulers, etc. So just kind of wanted to make everybody aware of that stuff does exist on Exchange. So anybody is interested in that, there's some good stuff there. Okay. All right. So anything, everybody's hearing me okay, Lou? Is everything just a sound check just to make sure everybody's there?
Oh yeah, you're good.
Okay, very good. Okay, so getting into the software, what we typically do, so you'll see right now, I've got the software showing on, I'm sharing the software. One of the things that to note is when you install the software, you do get 40 hours of working with it, runtime and build time, fully functional. It is a running clock, so just be aware so the point is that you have 40 hours to kind of evaluate and say play with the software to kind of see what it's about. Just be aware it's a running clock, so if you're going to walk away from it for an hour or two, just make sure you shut it off just so you don't kill some time. And then after that, you have to license it. One of the things to note is with the software, it will give you by default, unless you tell it not to install it for you, you will get what's called a PC demo application with the software. The one I'm going to show you today, and this is typically when we show this to customers or when a salesperson or even another application engineer shows the software to customers, what we typically do is we start off by showing this PC demo app. Mine is a little bit different because we've added a couple things to this demo just to kind of illustrate that these things exist in the software. So just to be aware of them. So the way we'll kick this off is I will just, within the software, I've got the PC demo application open. All right. And then I'm going to basically run the software. Okay. So now you'll see this is the PC demo running in front of us, and then what we typically do is we'll talk to these different items as we kind of page through the PC demo. So first thing we'll just kind of follow this the header on the left, and looking at features, you see stuff. This is kind of just showing you some of the kind of typical stuff you can do with visualization. You've got your bar graphs, rotations, visibilities, etc., data entries, different commands. I can trigger a PDF reader, opening a PDF, etc., things like that. And then as you kind of follow down through on this right-hand side menu, you've got some other stuff you can do in here. We've got active objects, right? So you've got some things, you've got some older technologies that are still supported, of course, on the Windows platform. You can embed ActiveX controls. .NET controls are still current, so that's still a possibility. You've got grid control. So this is just kind of showing you the different types of objects in different types of visualizations that you can create with the software. There's a full-blown recipe management section. In one of the things that one of the strong suits of the software is that it's an all-in-one type package. Other than the thin client and the import wizard options, all the functionality is baked into the software without any option packages that you need to do in order to do all these different functions. So I don't need any different licenses or add-ons to do recipes or reports, for example, or trends or data logging or alarms. They're all modules that are included in the software. So that's part of the power of what we propose. Okay, so you can see there's a built-in recipe management system. And then in this, this is one of the things that we added to this demo project. And this is we can make this available if anybody wants it. This is nothing proprietary or anything like that. And you could see, this is this is an interaction where we're connecting to a database to deal with the recipes. Okay, I don't have the database here, so it's not okay. And then just kind of going through here, this is some reporting functionality. So very strong. You can, in addition to what you see here, HTML, basically Word, CSV, and text. You can also, there is functionality to create PDF reports. So for example, if I just want to view a report in HTML, for example, I can get a little HTML page with some embedded values in it. Okay, very simple stuff, but quite powerful. Okay. The trending tool, okay, this is what it looks live in runtime. And when I kind of go through this PC demo and we get into the software, we'll talk a little bit more about what you can do with the trends and the data logging as far as pushing it to databases and other historians. Okay. So you can see quite nice trending tool. You have a full alarming function, again, built in, nothing additional needed to give you any kind of alarming functionality. You can see I can generate different alarms with different things in here to acknowledging. So full-blown alarm handling system. But the software does support so if you do have multi-touch screens in use, there is multi-touch functionality in order to do things. You can zoom and swipe, move stuff around. It's a little bit hard to show when I don't have a touch screen, but there is the possibility to do multi-touch functionality, swiping between different screens and big canvases, etc. The other part of it is for the people that are aware of Viva industrial graphics. So basically the industrial graphics editor that exists within the Aviva software portfolio is starting to be folded, like Lou touched on. This is some there's additional things coming on the roadmap as far as the integration. So this is like a first step into integrating into, so there would be a common editor between Aviva and say this Schneider Machine SCADA Expert software using the same editor has the Aviva industrial graphics. The nice thing about the Aviva industrial graphics is that these objects are already, they're vector based and it's all HTML5. So it's all ready for thin clients, etc. So quite exciting to get that added in. And again, just kind of paging through the demo here more, you can kind of see again, just kind of showing you the kind of screens, just giving you, I guess, a picture of the different possibilities. And again, this PC demo is not locked down by any means. So this is completely open for you to reverse engineer, see how, I kind of like that. How do they do that type thing? So totally open for people to use and reverse engineer, so to speak. So if you needed to do any of this, okay. Okay, so then there's different solutions again. So we go to the solutions page. This is a template screen. This is like a PACML, following the PACML standard, and we can cycle through this. This is a standard created by someone else, and this is the screen that's following that format. You can also see this is basically an OEE type screen. So again, this was developed by us and the thing to kind of keep in mind, like when you see a screen like this is using basically a combination of built-in objects and functions. It's using widgets, which takes some programming skill, and then also some background code to create all this. So, one of the messages that that I like to put out there about the software is that the software is as powerful as your programming abilities will allow. And so what's nice about it to me is that all levels of users can use the software. So if you're not a super high level programmer, you can still, because the software is easy to use, you can still get a lot out of it. If you are a super high level programmer and you can deal with Java and widgets and Visual Basic and .NET controls, etc., then you can really get a lot out of the software because the software can support all those things, has basically a container for all that stuff. Okay. And then again, then here's a sample and on screen. So I think the point in this PC demo is just to kind of show, look, you can create a lot of different types of things all within one package, not having to deal with multiple packages. Okay. And then as far as the thin client side, just to kind of illustrate this, so what you'll see if I click on this, everything goes okay, then what you'll see is so this is addressing what we were talking about. This is what we refer to when we talk about a thin client. So this is the one concurrent connection that I get with my built-in license. And then you can see this is basically allowing me to do everything that I could do in the original project, like viewing it as a local viewer. I can also see all this stuff basically in this, in a different viewer, basically in my browser. Any HTML5 compatible browser will work for this. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to, let me get out of here. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Anything to address at this point, Lou? I'm just gonna kind of run through the software a little bit now at this point.
Yeah, no, you're good. We've been
Okay.
answering the questions on
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So what I thought I'd do is I'll just walk through the creation of a project. So it's just fairly straightforward. I'm not going to get into what all the different types of things mean. This is not within the scope of today, but you can see one of the things that happens is when you create a project, one of the things you'll see is you're going to come down here and you're going to pick, which license you're designing to. So that's just something to be aware of. And then you're going to give it a project name. We can give it anything we want. I'm going to click OK. And then this is just telling me, okay, I can do anything with my resolution. I'm just going to basically leave a lot of this stuff at default just for simplicity purposes. Okay. And then it's going to want me to do something with security. I'm not going to set up security for here. I'm just going to make sure. But it always wants to walk me through, creating security or not creating security for what we're doing. We're not going to create any. Okay. So now you can see, so now I'm in the environment to kind of look at what the environment looks like. Just to kind of start over here on the left-hand side within the Project Explorer. If you kind of go through these different tabs here, the global, the graphics, the tasks, and the communications, you could kind of get a picture of how the software is being, basically the way that the architecture of the software is done. A lot of these things you can trigger either through the this Project Explorer over here on the left, or you also have the ribbon menu up at the top to get you through a lot of this stuff. So some of this stuff is duplicated, some of it is unique to where it is. And so you can see here, you got tags, classes, database, system tags, security. This is in my global area. If I look in my graphics area, this is where I create my screens and my symbols. So just to create a simple screen, you'll notice I'm right clicking. So this is SCADA, so get used to right clicking. And here I can insert, so you can insert a screen, or I can actually insert, this is that industrial graphics piece. Basically, because I have not to use the industrial graphics, you do need to import some libraries, and I don't have it imported, so that's not going to work. So I'm just going to insert a regular screen. You can give it a name, you can give it a size, right? You have all the different attributes that you can set for a screen, and then it'll open up a screen in this area. And then from here, it's pretty standard stuff, right? So this is, again, just to kind of, we're not going to belabor this because this is just standard stuff, but you'll see if I click on the different objects up in here, when I take them into the, in the screen editing area, then you'll notice that I can double click on this object. And then, for example, I can enter a tag, I can browse for a tag, I can use, you'll see when I'm browsing for the tags, you can, this is what the system will initially present to you. You can see you could have project tags, and then you can have system tags, for example. And I'll put in like a system. There's like, for example, this is an analog value that just goes up and down. It's just nice to show for purposes, just to show you that something's working. Okay. The other part of it is there are, you'll notice there is a quite nice library of built-in system symbols, and what's nice about these is, like, for example, if I come in here and I look at the meters, and let's say, okay, I want, I could take, I could see these are all these meters that are all pre-built for me. So I can click on one and you'll notice I get a little icon showing me that I've selected that part. And then when I go over to the screen itself, and I can drag, and there's that part already. And then if I just double click on that part, you'll see that it's already created as what's called a linked symbol within the software. So this was pre-created, and you could see it has pre-made categories or properties that you can now change freely. And what's nice about this is when you're making this is all pre-created for you. So, like, for example, in here, if I just wanted to come in here and put a tag name in, for example, like that, that's all I have to do. And now when I save the screen, close. Now when I run the project, you'll see that it's already picked up. So literally just drag and drop that on the screen. And then just by putting a system tag in there, I can make this gauge move and do something. So super simple to use. Okay. So again, all right. So I'm going to stop the project. Wait a second. Okay. So now I stopped the project. Okay, so that was just wanted to run through that just so you had a picture of, what you do to graphically put stuff in there. The next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was we talked about, sharing, the data as far as the data logging and where can we push this data to. So this is a very strong part of the software. So I'm going to go into the task tab, and under trend logger, I'm going to insert a trend logger. And one of the things you'll notice here now is that in the trend logger, I have the ability to save to different history formats. So by default, this is just saving to a proprietary format, which is it's just basically a binary file that gets saved within the Machine SCADA Expert file structure. So that's, pretty simple, kind of the default way, nothing complicated there, nothing too exciting. You also have the ability to, I'm just going to go into the historian part first. So there's also in historian way to push the data to historians as far as the data logger is concerned. And you could see this is the Aviva on-premise historian that you can use, or you have two options for Aviva Insight, either as a publisher or by using basically CSV and JSON commands to push the data to the Aviva historian. Okay, so that's built in basically into the data logger is the point there. Okay, the other thing that's quite powerful is that you do have the ability to connect directly to a database, SQL, etc. And you can kind of see the way that works is I'm going to go in here, and I haven't defined a default project database, which you can do. So I'm just going to here. I'm going to pick. So for example, I have a SQL server, Lite server on this computer, and I should be able to. I'll have to shut my firewall off real quick. Okay, and then I should be able to now pick up, and you can see it picked up. This is the name of my computer, /SQL Express. I'm going to just tell it to use regular security. And then you'll see within it will also find the different databases that are there. We're going to just pick this logger. We'll say test the connection. And then you can see, so basically just in those few simple steps, I have now created a connection between the data logger within Machine SCADA Expert. So now when I come in here and I put a tag name in here, for example, if I say create a new tag, I'll say some value. Okay. Okay, so now, oops, edit. Okay, project in. Okay, now you can see every second it will go out and log this value and put it into the database. And you'll actually see, so for example, if you go here, you'll notice that it will, you have a setting where it will automatically create a table with this trend name. And you can, of course, control that if you'd like. Okay. So again, just we always kind of like to show that because it's quite nice, very simple, very simple interface to get data into a database rather than using a proprietary format. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and save that. Okay. All right. So then kind of moving on, I think the next thing I'd like to talk about is the different ways, and I'm gonna focus on basically connectivity to different things. So but mainly Matacon PLCs is what we'll talk about. So if we go to the communications tab, one of the things you'll notice is you have different ways to communicate, right? You've got drivers, you've got OPC, and then you've got basically a TCP, a raw TCP/IP way to communicate. So if we look at, for example, if we look at the drivers available, so this is one of the things that's also kind of a key value point about the software is not only do you have the ability to do, so for example, today to use OPC UA, which is a new and modern way of communicating between industrial devices, let's say, completely cyber secure, et cetera. You have the ability to do that, but you also have the ability to communicate to a lot of legacy stuff. So if you kind of look through this list of different drivers, et cetera, that are available, of course, there's new stuff available, right? There's, all the Allen Bradley new stuff is available, all the Schneider drivers are available, but you also see, where can I go? You'll see little things in here like, FATEC and, little bit, like here's a Garmin GPS protocol, different things like that. So, so that's what I said. So very strong that you've got the ability to kind of merge the two worlds. So if you've got some old legacy stuff that you need to talk to and say, push it to say, a new, to some cloud service today, this is a software that can perhaps help you with that. And then, for a good example would be, so if you take a look at like there's an MQTT driver, for example, and if we kind of take a look at what we can do in that MQTT driver. So what this is allowing us to do is this is allowing us to push data to MQTT brokers. And it also has, and we have built-in connectors for Azure and Amazon AWS. So things like that. So like I said, everything from legacy, say, way scales to everything up to doing stuff with MQTT. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of it just to kind of keep things simple. Okay. All right. So now when we talk about when we want to say connect to Matacon PLCs, we have different ways that we can actually make the connections. Okay. So the first one is that a lot of people may do is we have a function within the software, and this is not just for Schneider PLCs. So there is a tag integration feature that exists within the software. And what this is doing is this is integrating the environment of your connected controller into the Machine SCADA Expert world, basically in order so that we can get the data from the controller into Machine SCADA Expert. And you could see, if you hit this drop-down list, you could see there's more than just Schneider import wizards. There's Codesys, there's Rockwell, et cetera. So the one that we're going to look at today in this section is we're going to look at the Schneider Unity Modbus. Okay. And what happens with the Schneider, what we do with Schneider Unity Modbus is what we're essentially looking for is we're looking for an XSY file. Okay. So this XSY file is generated by Control Expert, and then it gets generated, and then you essentially browse into, find it. I have to find my, okay. And then you could see, for example, I have an XSY file that I could pull in. Okay. And now what I've done is I've integrated that XSY file into the software. So for example, now if I go back to my screen, and I know I go to one of my objects, and now when I browse, what you'll see is it's now going into and browsing the XSY file for all its data. Okay, so this is a pretty simple one. This is all just flat data, so I can just pick something like this, for example, and then apply it immediately to the object. Okay. So that's the tag integration piece. What the tag integration piece actually does is, if you go back to the communication tab, what the tab integration piece actually did is it created, within Machine SCADA Expert, there is this concept of driver sheets. And so what you'll see is, because I use the tag integration, what it did kind of behind the scenes is it created this driver sheet by default, because that's the driver that it's using to actually communicate to the PLC to get those tags out of the PLC. So now if I click OK here, now you can see I have what amounts to a driver sheet. And then within this driver sheet, and this is where you have a lot of power to create different ways and different schemes and different methods that you can communicate to your controller with. So if you wanted to optimize communications, these driver sheets are very, very good at to do that. Okay. All right. The other way, there's a couple of other ways that we can communicate to Schneider controllers. There also is there is an OPC DA server that we can use, so we can act as a OPC DA client to the Schneider PLC, acting as an OPC DA server, and that's done through OFS. So the OFS OPC DA server actually gets installed along with Machine SCADA Expert. So in this import wizard supports OPC DA. So for example, what I can do here is I can click on an OPC server database. Okay. Click next. All right. So now I'm just going to look at the local copy of the OFS. So I can hit this little drop down here, and then you can see here's the Schneider Electric OFS. I can hit next. Okay. And now what you'll see is it's loading the items from the server. Okay. And then you'll see what it's done is it's gone out and it's looked at all the stuff that's exposed in the OFS OPC DA server. So I think this is just a sample project running, but you can see it has a bunch of tags in it, and you have the ability to select which tags you want to import or not import. I'll just leave it at default. I say finish, and now it will finish. And then what you'll see is if you go under here, under the OPC DA section, you'll see that you have a OPC DA worksheet created by the import wizard that gives me the connectivity that I need to the OPC DA server. And then what it also does is it fills in the tag name that's for use within Machine SCADA Expert, right? So this is the raw information for Machine SCADA Expert to get at the data, and then this is the tag name that's used within Machine SCADA Expert. Okay. And then it's a similar thing as far as for OPC UA. So if you have a Modicon controller supporting OPC UA, we can do the same thing. This is a little bit more modern interface. Okay. So what I need to do to actually do this, I actually have to create an OPC UA connection like this. So I would give it a name, for example. Okay. And then we would just give it this is a typical type of thing to get at. And I'm just going to do something like this. So this is what the typical path would look like. Something like that. So this is where the OPC UA server exists, and that's the port number. If I had one alive right now that would work, I'm just going to click OK. Let's just I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to start my my UA server. Hopefully, again, live demos. Hopefully, all goes well. Okay. Let me Share again. Don't give me a second. Oops. Bear with me. Exit that. Sorry. Let me try this one more time. Bear with me. Okay, that's better. Okay. All right, so let me go, oops, don't hit that. So now I should be able to go to my connection here. And if I did everything correctly, okay, so now I've got a connection established. And now what happens, so then I'll pick it. Oops. Close that. Ah, okay, so let me insert a, sorry. Okay, there's my connection. Okay, here's my worksheet. So now we're going to create a worksheet. Here's the connection. So now what happens, and you can see when you have a worksheet, of course, you can give it a description and you get these fields for status and publish rate, et cetera, that you don't necessarily need to use. And then what happens is when you actually go in here and you want to go pick a variable, what happens is it actually will go out and it will, as a client, it will go out and browse the OPC UA server. And then you can reach in here and you could see, and you can pick, for example, the variable that you want to use. And then that gives me the browse path. And then I can come in here and then I can just create, for example, a new tag that's useful within Machine SCADA Expert. Oops, come on. Here. Okay. So you could pick, again, I can create a new tag. Anything I want. Oops, go in here. Okay, and just pick it, for example. Okay, create a new. Okay, and there's now this is the path to the variable in the OPC UA server, and then this is the tag name. Okay. All right. I'll just save that. Okay. Okay, let's go like that. Okay, so so that is a good chunk of stuff that I wanted to show. Lou, is there anything else that you'd like me to show in particular? Anything any threads in the questions or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that you might
Right.
be able to answer here. So do we have a separate license for web access other than the one client it comes with?
So the clients are independent of how you're accessing, right? So if you're aware of, there's basically two ways at this point. There's a secure way, there's a secure viewer way, and then there's the, using a browser. And the client license makes no differentiation between them. So if you wanted 6, so for example, if you need 5 secure viewers concurrently and 4 web viewers concurrently, that's 9 licenses, independent of what they, what the technology is to. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking through the Q&A right now. There's a couple of questions in here about replacing Visio with Machine Expert. I don't know if you wanted to handle that.
Yeah, I think you have to be a little bit careful there. I think if depending on what you're, depending on what you've done in machine or in Visio Designer, you could have some challenges. Most, some, like what's the functionality? And I'm thinking, there are some fairly unique functionalities that exist within Visio Designer. So I think, of course, just like any visualization package, to convert one from the other is always a possibility. It's just you have to kind of look at how it was originally done in Visio Designer. If it wasn't using a lot of stuff that was unique to Visio Designer, or you can lose the stuff that was unique to it, then I think it's no problem. But just, I would say you need to analyze it before you kind of go down that road, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I kind of like to put it this way. If you were drawing a Venn diagram of overlapping, products where they fit, this kind of reaches down to, a high-end HMI application. It kind of reaches up into a low-end full SCADA application. That's where this fits. Will it replace Visio Designer on the HMIs? No, not entirely. You have to realize that, from the HMI perspective, actually, the HMIs have gotten, pretty powerful over the course of time. But they still reach all the way down to the low stuff, right? If somebody wants a 3-inch, HMI that goes onto a machine, that's not where this will fit, right? The cost
that's right.
to get something on there is just
doesn't make sense. That's right.
Doesn't make sense. And so again, if you're drawing a Venn diagram, you're kind of overlapping on the high end HMI, and you're overlapping on the other side. You're overlapping on the high end or the low end, full blown SCADA system.
Right.
This fits very nicely in the middle, and that's probably how I would.
Right. And I would say, it's an interesting topic. I think it always has been an interesting topic to compare HMI to SCADA. And I think at this point, from a functionality perspective, that Venn diagram is very connected. I think there's a lot of overlap. I think where you do see the main differences is basically in the environment that you're programming in, right? I mean, the HMI softwares are typically made to kind of be very simple, very straightforward, where in the SCADA world, you kind of have that mix. You've got the simplicity along with the complexity of doing certain things, but you can get more out of it. So
that's right.
Always an interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also now, if we just focus just that question down on the low end, we talk about the HMIs. We have Visio Designer, which has been around for quite a long time, and you're very, very functional, very easy to use HMI software platform. But we also have a newer software platform that's out software-wise. I forget it. EcoStruxure HMI. What is that? Why am I going blank here?
The new software?
Yeah. The
Operator Terminal Expert?
That's it. Thank you very much. Yeah. Operator Terminal Expert. And so that's a very another low-end, very modern software package where you do swiping and stuff like that. A very powerful low-end package, but again, separate.
So that's why I think this sits in a real nice place for us, right? So it's covering a lot of stuff that, Visio or Operator Terminal Expert can't necessarily do today, and it's giving us the ability, like I said, to, the database connectivity, the connectivity to the cloud services, et cetera. That's what I think the power is. And and we do, and we are investigating, like that IoT box, for example, that ST6 IoT box, that's not a Windows. So that's where we're starting to see if we can get Machine SCADA Expert to kind of maybe run on some lower end panels, just so, if there's some thinner applications that we can solve, with smaller hardware, that we can do it. So that's kind of a work in progress. We'll see where it goes. The IoT box is the first iteration of that. So.
Okay, so a couple of things to chat. If you've already talked about it, please just let me know. We'll just bypass it, right? Is there a demo for this product?
Right. So back to let me share again. So back to what you get. Oops, I always have to do this twice. Okay. So remember, like I said, within the software itself, there is this PC demo. I'm going to go to the regular. This is the PC demo that comes with the, so again, this gets installed with the software. And in fact, the first time you open Machine SCADA Expert, this should be the project that it opens. So, you know, so from the get-go, you should have the demo project open. Okay. So that, and then again, you could, so really you just, from first time the software, you should be able to just open the software, hit run, and it should do this. The thing to note is you won't get the mobile part will not work because that requires some setup, but by default, the demo should work right off the bat. So.
And how long does that demo work for?
Well, so the demo for the software, you get 40 hours of continuous running. Okay, so for example, so if you install the software and you get 40 hours of working with it, you could do anything with it. You could run the PC demo for 40 hours if you wanted. You could do designing for 40 hours, etc. You just basically get 40 hours of use before you have to license. That's the concept. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so what else do we have here? We have, did you talk about security?
Very briefly. So again, to talk to security a little bit, we can also, if I create a new project, that's a good way to kind of show, I'll just create something here. And one of the first things that you'll see when security comes up is, so what's happening, you can kind of see how you can kind of get a picture of how the security is working, right? So when you initially start a project, it wants you to configure security. That's part of the Schneider, that's our cybersecurity push now, is that we're kind of forcing you and we want you to implement security, but you don't, of course, you don't have to. And then you could see there's a local mode, so you can actually you have the ability to have the security server reside on other runtimes. So for example, if you had multiple runtimes running, you could have the security all on one runtime, and then the other runtimes will act as clients to that one security system. So there's just one point of security. And you can see you can enable like an overall password, which basically allows you to unlock or lock different things. And of course, you can assign different permissions, etc., depending on what you want to do. See, this is what I mean to create a main password. Here, this is also something interesting to look at. This is on Windows. If you're running it in Windows, you have the ability to do LDAP settings. So you can have basically this is a Microsoft, well, I think LDAP is a common protocol for, well, now hopefully I didn't screw. Okay, so anyway, so you can see, so here's, like I said, you have different modes for security. You have the local mode, which is fairly straightforward. All the security is locked within the one system. And then you could see, you could have distributed client or servant, or you can use LDAP. So you can maintain the security basically outside of the software itself. And then you can see, you can create different groups, right? So you have a guest group, and then within the groups, you have all these different attributes that you can set in, what they can do, what they can't do, etc. And then you can even come in here and you can say, what's the, give minimum password sizes, etc. Have password aging, case sensitive, and then again, auto logging off, etc. So fairly full-blown, fairly comprehensive security system. That just to kind of give hopefully that kind of gives you a picture of what's in there. Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Did we talk about the conversion utilities?
No, well, only about the licenses. So we talked about that there is one license now that gives you basically all the conversion utilities. So I think we used to sell them individually, but now it's just one fee and you basically get them all. And the ones that we're talking about here are these are the imports. So this is for panel builder projects, panel mate projects. This is Allen Bradley Panel Builder. This is Cutler Hammer, if that's still, I guess it's Eaton at this point. And then Factory Talk. So these are pretty nice. And what's nice about these is it's not per project. So once you've got the wizards, you can basically convert as many projects as you would like. And then there's, like I said, there's obviously things you need to do. There's documentation related to what files you need from the source project and et cetera. And then running it through the converter basically you end up with a Machine SCADA Expert project converted.
Excellent. Scrolling through this, I think Tom has been answering most of the other questions that are on here. Let's see, you went through the mobile access, correct?
I spoke to the mobile access. One of the things that you can do, when we talk about this is where, so one thing to understand is let me go back to my piece. This is the original PC demo that he installed. When we talk about mobile access, we're kind of talking about a couple of different things. So by default, what we typically propose is for Machine SCADA Expert to serve up its screens as HTML to a web client. We need a server, and what we typically do, and we have a lot of documentation surrounding it, and we actually do some pre-configuration on Microsoft IIS. So basically anybody with, I think, Windows 10, I don't know if you need the Pro version, but basically anybody, Windows contains its own built-in web server called IIS, and that's typically what we use. So there's a procedure to configure all the stuff that you need in IIS, and then essentially what happens is in the software, what you essentially do is to make that work, basically what you do is you'll notice in the project is you basically save all the screens as HTML. So what happens is I'm not going to do that right now because it takes, for this project, it's quite big. So it takes about 3 or 4 minutes. But what happens is when you say save as all as HTML, basically what it does is the software goes through all the screens and basically converts them from their native state into HTML files. And so when you go to your browser, what you're actually doing is when you run the project and then you go to your browser, you're serving up those screens that have been saved as HTML. Okay. Now the mobile access part is a little bit of a different twist. I don't know if I'll try something again, live demo, and then the mobile access configuration is actually doing for you is this is actually giving you like a whole nother set or area of screens that you can use independent of the screens over here in the project. So for example, you could see you've got these different you can put your own widgets in here, etc. You can have your own alarms in here, etc. that are independent of the rest of the project. And let me just see if I can show that real quick. Again, live demo. I probably should have been better prepared for this. So you can see it's all basically done through the URL. So you can see it. So if I believe if this works for me, go. Let's see if no, that's not right. What's the URL to get at the mobile access part, Tom? Do you know? I know. Hopefully, Tom. I don't know if Tom's with us right now. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't prepared. I should have been better prepared for that part. But basically, what happens is the
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Go back to your web browser.
Yeah.
If you just back that out, I think you can just hit right after the EMSE 2020.
Oh, is it that? Okay, I didn't put it in the right spot. Let me get it. Okay, it's got to shut down give us a second, guys. Sorry. Yeah. Shutting down all the processes right now.
As we wait, just as we pause here, I put a couple of things in the chat. One is the link that you will find this presentation, the recording for this presentation, and all of our previous presentations. If you've been a part of these webinars in the past, it's the same link. Secondly, is I have a survey that I put into the chat. It's a link that's there. Really quick survey. How do we do today? Number one, any kind of future recommendations, future topics or recommendations of how to improve these webinars. But also more importantly, if you want to know more about this software and you have an opportunity and you want someone to contact you, you can put that in there. And then if you complete the survey, you also have the ability to get one of those beautiful Modicon user group mugs, and we'll send one to you. If you've received one already before, maybe you don't want one, but there are you have the ability to give me your mailing address, and I will your work mailing address, and I will put one in the mail for you. So please do that. I'll put up at the end of this webinar, I will put a link up on the screen, a QR code, so you can get right in also, but you can follow the link in your chat if you want to. How we doing?
I think we're getting there. It's guest, I think, right, Tom?
Yeah, we got BOSS 2020. That works too.
Yeah, there we go. I did MA. So, okay, so you can see, so this is what the mobile access piece is. So you can see how it's a completely separate section of, say, how can we say, like something to use for your browser. And you could notice this is kind of optimized maybe for smaller screens, right? Right. So you can see how you've got these different icons. And then you can, like, for example, if you go here, you can see these are all built-in widgets that are part of that mobile access that you can add. You don't have a lot of flexibility, but again, you've got the ability to add these. And you can see, again, this is kind of optimized. That's why we kind of call it mobile access. So say if you just wanted to, you just wanted to look at a couple of values on your phone, this is a real easy way to kind of make that happen. And you can see here's the trending tool is a little bit different, right? Different kind of interface, different kind of look and feel. And same thing. So if you can also publish different screens into this area, right? So you can see here's the same screens, and you're basically saying, do I want to use these within the mobile access piece, or do I not? Right? You get the same thing here. Here's an alarms feature. So that's kind of what so that's the mobile access piece, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay. I didn't know if there was any.
I gotta unmute myself. Did we touch on scripting?
Yep. No. Let me get into that. So the scripting piece. Yeah. So the scripting piece is, so if you look at so there's a couple of different ways, so to speak, that we do scripting. The original way legacy was we have these math worksheets, which are basically, you can look at this as kind of a built-in scripting language, very simple expressions, etc., all fully documented, real simple kind of a math worksheet. And then you also have a Visual Basic engine.
You're not showing anything, Tom.
Sorry. Yep, sorry. Yeah. Oops.
Got it.
I was back here. Sorry, this was the math. So this was the math worksheets thing. So if you can insert a math worksheet description. This is the, what condition do you want this to execute upon? What tag do you want it to execute on? And then what expression? So it's just basically applying math expressions to tags based on some execution condition. Fairly simple, straightforward stuff. You also have a Visual Basic engine built in, and you can kind of see under the procedures here, you could kind of see this is using Visual Basic syntax, and you have basically hooks into all the different functionalities, etc., all the different objects, all the different methods, etc., that are in Machine SCADA Expert. You can deal with and expose into Visual Basic scripts. So, you could put data basic commands in here, etc., etc. So full-blown, basically Visual Basic engine to do kind of all the different stuff that you need to do to get what you need out of the software. Okay.
Awesome. And this is the part that can reach up into a very powerful engineering software. And
this is where you get into, that's where, like things like, for example, if we look at, if I look at the screens, so if I can just add in, you've got things, now we've got like custom widgets, right? So these custom widgets, you've got some built-in custom widgets that you can use, but again, you've got to kind of go behind the scenes, and add some Java code, et cetera, to kind of make all these things work. So that's where I'm saying, super powerful that I can create my own custom widgets, but that also means you kind of have to know, for lack of putting it in an easier way, you kind of have to know how to do it. And we do one thing that we do, and that's why I kind of pointed out that stuff on Exchange. There are a lot of examples, et cetera, of how to implement some of this stuff. But it's just to be careful for some of the advanced features. Just kind of, make sure, just be aware that you're kind of getting into the programming world on some of this stuff. So that's just to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So with that, I'm not sure that we have anything else to talk about here. We talked about the operating systems, right? It runs on
So one of the things, so up until, like I said, up until say the last version of software, this was exclusively for Windows. As far as like what we package it for the P6, that's all running on Windows. Basically at the end of the day, this is a Windows runtime where, so for now, the IO the STM6 IoT box is actually a Linux box, so that's actually not running Windows. But just be aware because it's not Windows, then there are a fair amount of limitations still to this day that, certain things that you cannot do on the Linux box that you can do on the Windows. So just be aware of that for sure.
Yeah.
So Linux is, so some more Linux stuff is coming, but at this point, that's roadmap stuff. So.
Okay. I don't think there's any other questions that are out there that that we haven't already addressed. If you could pass the ball to me, that would be awesome.
Yep. Let me.
Okay. Why didn't it come up? Share. Okay, so there's the survey. Oh, what happened just now? Huh. Did I lose my screen? Do you see my screen?
No, I just see black. There you go. I see your desktop. Something.
It's really weird. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again. Okay, so this is the survey. First of all, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. This completes our MUG webinars for 2022. We will begin again another series next year. We're probably going to look to do more. We did 6 of them this year. I think it was 6. We're probably going to look to do 9 of them, adding in a little more software. There's a ton of software going on, or a ton of software development going on right now. And if you felt it in your world, just like we have, even in your private world, there's an absolute distinct movement from a hardware-centric world to being a software-centric world, and it's no different on the factory floor. And so there's a ton of software that we kind of want to review. And so we'll probably do about 3 or 4 webinars next year on software and specific topics. But anyway, there's the survey. If you would like a mug, please complete the survey. How do we do today? Really simple question. Any suggestions to improve or future topics that you'd like to see? Would you like to know more about EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert and have somebody contact you? Maybe you have an opportunity, or maybe you just want to know more for future opportunities. We'll have a specialist give you a ring. And then would you like a mug? And that's about it. So I'll leave this screen up. Go ahead and put that QR code into your phone. It's take you 2 minutes or a minute to complete that. Or the link is in the chat for the event, the webinar. With that, I wish everyone a happy holiday season, and we look forward to seeing you in 2023. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.